So where is everybody? So before the break, we were talking about price discrimination, right? Price discrimination is when you charge people whatever they are willing to pay. And price discrimination is when you charge different prices for the same product. And companies do it all the time. So, in last class, we did an example where there were two students who were willing to pay two different prices for the same book. And the most profit the supplier made was when he charged them both whatever they were willing to pay. So he charged the Corey, I believe, the higher price that he was willing to pay, and he charged the other guy the lower price that he was willing to pay, and that way he made most profit. That's what price discrimination does, right? So what it does is it reduces the deadweight loss. We saw that in competitive markets, the price was set by the market, by the people. The firms were price takers, right? Whatever the market sets the price, they have to sell at that. And we saw that in competitive markets, there was no deadweight loss, that there were equal amount of producer surplus and equal amount of, no, actually consumer surplus was actually greater in competitive markets. So there was consumer surplus, a greater consumer surplus, because, you know, it's a competitive market, and we saw that in monopoly, they are price setters. They set the price. Whatever quantity they want to sell it at, they charge the highest possible price at that quantity, because they can. They have that monopoly power. Their product is unique. It's not standardized. Something is different about it, right? What happens is that when you are in a monopoly market, there's deadweight loss. Deadweight loss is when people are being charged very high price, and most of the people cannot buy the product because of the high price. So the market transaction doesn't happen. A lot of people are not buying it. That's the loss. That's the loss. When people cannot buy something, that's a market loss, which is kind of like we call it deadweight loss. So in price discrimination, we will see that it reduces that deadweight loss. When you charge the higher paying customer the highest price, and when you charge the lower paying customer the lower price, it reduces that market loss. More transactions happen, more people are able to buy, and surplus increases, and market loss decreases. So that's where we're heading with this price discrimination thing. So we said that price discrimination was highly efficient. So in economics, when we say something is efficient, that means that less loss, basically. You're losing less money. So price discrimination highly efficient. reduces market loss. Meaning more market transactions. So loss is measured through deadweight loss. So how does it do that? So how much are monopolists gonna produce? What's gonna be the production quantity for a monopolist here? Where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, right? That's how much monopolists are gonna produce. And what's the price they're gonna charge? Go directly up on that quantity. That's the price they're gonna charge. How much is if this was a competitive firm, how much are they gonna produce? Remember, for a competitive firm, demand and marginal revenue are same thing. This is equal to marginal revenue for
What demand and MC meet.
competitive market. So remember, there's no separate marginal revenue curve for a competitive market. So how much they produce? Where demand and marginal cost meet, right? So this is how much a competitive market produces. We'll call this Q2. The price they charge is the price set by the market, right? Now what happens if it's a single price monopolist they're charging P1, the highest price, and they're producing at Q1. The deadweight loss area is A, B, C. We'll call this A, B, and C. This is the if it's a monopolist, they're producing this much, charging this much, this whole triangle ABC has become a loss. Why is it a loss? Because people are not able to buy at that higher price. So this is a market loss. If it's a competitive firm, you are charging P2 the lower price, and you're producing at Q2. There is no deadweight loss. When you produce this much and you charge this much, this whole thing is, this whole market is a positive, surplus. There's no deadweight loss, basically. With price discrimination, charge P1 and Q1 up to Q1 and charge P3 or Q3 minus Q1. So monopolists can charge P1 for quantity Q1 up to this quantity. They can charge this higher price, and what else they can do is charge a slightly lower price for quantity 3. So when they charge this lower price, they can sell a little bit more than Q1. And what happens is the deadweight loss reduces. They gain area B in producer surplus as a result of price discrimination. And they gain area A in consumer surplus as a result of price discrimination. So the monopolists are charging the higher price to this many people, Q1, but then they decrease the price a little bit less, and they are able to sell more products. Quantity has increased, right? More people buy it. And what happens is the loss, the big triangle ABC, that got reduced. So now area A has become the consumer surplus and area B has become the producer surplus. And the only deadweight loss is this tiny triangle on the right. So if they were competitive, they would sell up to quantity 2. So they would sell this whole and charge this price, right? And charge P2, but they're not monopolists. So they sell up to Q3. dead weight loss becomes only area C. So the price discrimination, charging P1 for few customers and charging P3 for some of them, reduces the dead weight loss. Any questions on this? No questions? Everybody understands? Okay. So, what if the market was perfectly competitive discrimination market?
There's no dead weight.
There would be no dead weight loss. Yeah. You get it. If the market was perfectly competitive means that every single consumer is being charged what they are willing to pay. So, if it was a perfectly competitive market, there won't be any dead weight loss. And I'll show you how